This is how you make a sequel. Hi, it's the last Drafthouse Diary for 2022 for December 31st, 2022, and I went to the Aspen Grove Alamo Drafthouse to see Avatar: The Way of Water. I liked Avatar when it first came out. It was a fun movie. It was a great adventure story. It was an influential movie when it comes to filmmaking. Really enjoyed it, and it wasn't life-changing the way it seems to have been for some people, but I liked it, and I was looking forward to there being a sequel. My interest may have waned as the years went by and more years went by, even though James Cameron kept talking about all the additional Avatar movies that he planned to make, and that was going to be his new career. But it had kind of faded from my attention when we finally started seeing hype for the new Avatar movie sometime last year. So I went into this cautiously optimistic. Sometimes when things get too big, they get too overblown, they lose sight of what made them good in the first place, and that's not the case with this movie. Also, sometimes when sequels are made, the only way the storytellers know, the only story they know how to tell, is the story they told in the first place. So anything that happened, anything that developed or resolved in the first movie, they feel the need to undo in order to have a similar story to tell. Some egregious examples of that would include parts of the second National Treasure movie, Ghostbusters 2. We just have to erase what we accomplished in order to tell the same story again. Avatar does not do that. Avatar starts from the story that they told in the first movie, starts from where that story resolved, quickly walk you through essentially the same number of years in these characters' lives as have taken place in the real world since the release of Avatar. And then it gives us a new story involving the original characters and where their lives are now, and also new characters. The place where these characters' lives are now is we see Jake and Neytiri together at the end of Avatar. They are the start of a family. By the time Avatar 2 is really taking place, they have a family, they have children, they have a place in the world, and new things that are important to them, and those are threatened because the humans come back. You might say that that's kind of a redo of the first movie, but it makes perfect sense that the sky people, the Earthlings, are again the antagonists. But even they, it's not just, well, we're going to come back and do the same things. The world of Pandora has been established as such an important resource. And the story in The Way of Water makes it clear that the stakes are higher for the humans from Earth. And therefore, the stakes are higher for the Na'vi of Pandora. So the story becomes one of identifying what is important, making sacrifices to protect what is important, trying to find a new way to live, and then trying to protect that as it is threatened. And all the while having a theme of family, a theme of this kind of choice making, and all of this interwoven with spectacular filmmaking, very, very well done action scenes, and good antagonists. You need good bad guys, especially in an action movie like this, and Way of Water delivers. Another thing that sometimes goes wrong in sequels is that the world building that is done in the first installment either stops or is weirdly contracted. Everything has to connect to everything else, and therefore the world gets smaller. Yes, I'm talking about George Lucas and the Star Wars prequels, and to some extent the sequels. Not everything has to be connected. I want the world to keep getting bigger. And the world of Pandora keeps getting bigger in The Way of Water. I love that. We see more of things of which we got glimpses in the first Avatar. We know that the way of the Na'vi that we first met in that first movie are not the only Na'vi, and that's not the only lifestyle that Na'vi pursue. And we see the way of the reef people, the people who live at and with and through the ocean. And we see Jake and Neytiri and their family learn how to be in this new home and how to work with these people they now live among. There's really not much else I have to say about the story. It has a good, consistent development of its action beats. Well, let me back off that a little bit. There are some sequences at the end in which the movie It gets weirdly, distractingly repetitive in a relatively short frame of time, in that you've got characters who are captured and they're tied up in a certain way, and then they get freed, and then they're tied up again in exactly the same way. And I understand what they're trying to build and develop there, but it was almost distracting. It took me out of the movie to say, oh, didn't they just do this 8 minutes before, and now that we're seeing them do it again? You could have brought a little more ingenuity to blocking those scenes, to deciding what the antagonists were going to do, and instead it was kind of flat. But that's a relatively minor criticism of what is in general very good action blocking. I saw it in 3D. I didn't see it on a giant IMAX type screen. I did see it in 3D. I thought the 3D was good. I would recommend seeing it in 3D. It wasn't distracting. I would almost say the 3D was underused. It was a little too subtle. I kind of like to notice, not in a way that's distracting, but I like to notice when I'm watching a movie in 3D, and there wasn't much of that. I might have to see this in 2D on a big screen in order to really get a sense of what the difference is. So I'm going to try to do that before it leaves theaters. But I recommend it. If you liked Avatar, I think you're going to like Avatar, The Way of Water. And, I'm excited for the next one, which I think is going to happen in a couple of years as opposed to a decade plus. That's a good thing. Other aspects of this last visit to the Alamo for 2022. I had the chips and queso. I've had those before. They're quite good. Their queso sauce is good. The queso is better with the chips than it is with that pretzel that I had when I went to see Babylon. I also had the sausage and spinach pizza. That was part of a special menu that they had from December into early January, the same special menu that brought back chicken wings for a while. And it was good. Alamo does good pizza, and this was good. It was interesting. It wasn't that different from the other pizzas they had. The spinach was good. The sausage was flavorful. The crust and cheese, as always, was good. So I'm glad that I had it. I'm not going to miss it when it's gone, but it was a nice change. The pre-show was very good. As you might expect for a feature this big, it was custom made for this movie. So it had a lot of parodies and comedy bits from over the years about Avatar, some clips of interviews with James Cameron. It also had an extended previously on Avatar bit from Jason Erler of Master Pancake. Master Pancake's a comedy group that does other collaborations with the Alamo. And that was very funny, but it was also very useful. I had rewatched Avatar a few nights before, but I was still glad to have that quick summary of the plot points before going into Avatar 2. So a good pre-show. I've come to expect those for these big movies, and the Alamo did not disappoint. The rest of the visit, it was fine. It was a crowded screening, but the service was very good. So, Happy New Year. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back in 2023 with more Drafthouse Diaries. In the meantime, enjoy your movies, and when you do, stay till the end of the credits.